Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Lit Up with Annie. Today, I'm going to talk about one of the pre romantic poets, which is Thomas Gray, a very, very important poet. Thomas Gray was born in 1716 and he passed away in 1771. ठीक है, English poet है, scholar रहे हैं, and he's best known for his melancholic and very reflective kind of poetry. And I think you all know his most famous work is Elegy Written in the Country Churchyard. The work was published in 1751. Please remember the date. It's a very important poem. We have seen questions in the exam as well. It's a masterpiece of pre-romantic poetry. ट्रांजिशनल एज हम इसको कहते हैं, एज ऑफ ट्रांजिशन या प्री रोमांटिक एज भी कहते हैं. ऑगस्टन एज और रोमांटिक एज के बीच में जो एज फॉल होती है, जब ऑगस्टन एज का जो स्ट्रिक्ट रूल्स पे फोकस था, डिक्शन पे फोकस था, वो थोड़ा थोड़ा हट रहा था. देयर वाज दिस न्यू मूवमेंट व्हिच वाज कमिंग अप एंड इट वुड कम अप फुली इन द रोमांटिक एज, लेकिन एकदम से नहीं आया ऑफ कोर्स. तो प्री रोमांटिक एज में वो सेंसिबिलिटी बन गई. एंड वन ऑफ द मोस्ट फेमस राइटर्स और पोएट्स इज टॉमस ग्रे. ठीक है, तो ये मास्टरपीस है प्री रोमांटिक एज का, जिसमें क्लासिकल फॉर्म ही है और बहुत डीप पर्सनल इमोशन इन्होंने इसमें डाला हुआ है. ग्रेवयार्ड पोएट भी कहते हैं बिकॉज जो पोएट्री है ये, एलिजी रिटन इन द कंट्री चर्च यार्ड, उसकी सेटिंग उस तरह की है. ठीक है, तो पहले हम टॉमस ग्रे के बारे में थोड़ी सी बात करते हैं. 1751 में इनका मोस्ट फेमस वर्क आया एंड it was it it was inspired by a churchyard in Stoke Poges, जहाँ पे ग्रे रिफ्लेक्टेड ऑन द लाइव्स ऑफ कॉमन पीपल, कॉमन लोगों की लाइव्स पे उन्होंने रिफ्लेक्ट किया है. एंड इट ब्लेंड्स न्यू क्लासिकल बैलेंस भी है इसमें, लेकिन रोमांटिक इमोशन भी है, मेकिंग इट अ परफेक्ट एग्जाम्पल ऑफ प्री रोमांटिक पोएट्री. इसके अलावा इन्होंने he's written more works as well. For example, Ode on a Distant Prospect of Eton College, 1742, before the country churchyard. Very nostalgic poem which contrasts youthful innocence with harsh realities of adulthood. And it also expresses melancholy and loss, themes which are central to pre-romanticism. ठीक है. Another work is The Progress of Poesy, 1757. Progress of Poesy. एक पिंडारिक ओड है, पोइट्री की जो पावर है उसको सेलिब्रेट करता है. द बार्ड, अगेन 1757. ये भी एक ड्रामेटिक ओड है विच इज सेट इन मिडीवल वेल्स. बार्ड आपको पता है ना, पोएट को बोलते हैं. तो जहां पे एक बार्ड जो है वो कर्स कर रहा है इंग्लिश इन्वेडर्स को. So it celebrates Celtic heritage, medievalism, patriotism, foreshadowing romanticism. तो इन्होंने melancholy, nostalgia को इंट्रोड्यूस किया for later poets like Wordsworth, Keats. एक गॉथिक और medieval revival भी हमें देखने को मिलता है. So the bard helped popularize interest in the medieval themes. All right. अब हम बात करेंगे इनकी फेमस पोम के बारे में, विच इज एलिजी रिटन इन अ कंट्री चर्चयार्ड. समराइज करेंगे उसको, फिर लाइन बाय लाइन भी देखते हैं. ठीक है. द पोम वाज रिटन इन 1750 and it got published 1 year later, 1751. One of the most celebrated graveyard poems. It has melancholy, it talks about nature and the universality of death, that death is inevitable. Gray was inspired, as I told you, by this rural churchyard. इंग्लैंड में एक स्टोक पोजेस में एक चर्चयार्ड है, वहां से वो इंस्पायर्ड थे. ठीक है. द पोम ऑल्सो ऑनर्स कॉमन पीपल, जैसे फार्मर्स की बात की है, लेबरर्स की बात की है, जिनकी लाइव्स जो है उन पे कोई बात नहीं करता. The lives weren't recorded in history books, but were just as meaningful as others. So उनको उन्हें इन्होंने honor किया है. For example, we have this line, full many a gem of purest ray serene, the dark unfathomed caves of ocean bear. It's a metaphor for undiscovered talent among ordinary people, right? Some of the famous lines, we have the curfew tolls, the knell of the parting day. It's the solemn opening sets. This solemn opening, it sets the tone for the entire work. Far from the madding crowds, ignoble strife. This also inspired the title of Thomas Hardy's novel. And the poem ends with Gray's self reflection in the epitaph, as if writing his own memorial, अपना ही memorial जैसे लिख रहे हैं. Okay, let's start with first stanza. I'll read it out first. The curfew tolls the knell of parting day. The lowing herd wind slowly over the lea. The ploughman homeward plods his weary way and leaves the world to darkness and to me. So the poem begins at sunset as the curfew bell signals the end of the day. The curfew tolls the knell of the parting bell. Uh, parting day. Herd of castle moves slowly across the meadow. Le jo likha hai, it's the meadow. So it says the lowing herd wind slowly over the lake. A tired farmer finishes his day's work and heads home. As darkness sets in, the speaker is left alone to reflect on all of these things. तो जो चर्च की इवनिंग बेल है, द कर्फ्यू टोल्स द नेल ऑफ पार्टिंग डे. चर्च की जो बेल है वो सिग्नल करती है कि चलो अब दिन खत्म हुआ, अब अपने अपने घर सब चले जाएंगे. एंड सारे जो लोग हैं, जो लोइंग हर्ड है बेसिकली, वो सारे धीरे धीरे अपने घर की तरफ दे आर गोइंग. And a tired farmer also trudges homeward, and the world is left to darkness. मतलब अब रात हो गई है, and I am there because I'm going to reflect on all of these things. एक सेटिंग, मतलब एक मूड पूरा सेट हो गया, अंधेरा हो गया, शाम हो गई, सब अपने अपने घर चले गए, मैं रह गया अभी. Second stanza. Now fades the glimmering landscape on the side, and all the air a solemn stillness holds, save where the beetle wheels his droning flight, and drowsy tinklings lull the distant folds. जो पूरा लैंडस्केप है, इट फेड्स इनटू द नाइट. पूरी रात हो रही है. अ डीप साइलेंस फिल्स द एयर, और सिर्फ कुछ साउंड्स बचे हैं. एक जो बीटल बज कर रही है एज इट फ्लाइज, और दूसरा द सॉफ्ट रिंगिंग ऑफ बेल्स एज शीप सेटल इन फॉर द नाइट. फोल्ड्स मीन्स जो शीप है वो पेन्स अपने अपने जगह पे चले जाते हैं. सो नाउ फेड्स द ग्लिमरिंग लैंडस्केप ऑन द साइड. जो पूरा ग्लिमरिंग साइड था, लैंडस्केप था, वो पूरा अब फेड हो रहा है ना, नाइट हो रही है एंड सनसेट हो रहा है. There is also seriousness, stillness, there is which is hanging in the air, and all the air a solemn stillness holds. Stillness is there, save where the beetle wheels his droning flight. Save मतलब सिर्फ कुछ चीजों की आवाज आ रही है. The beetle wheels his droning flight. The buzz of the flying beetle is there, and drowsy tinklings lull the distant folds. Drowsy, it signals that the sheep are going to rest now. They're going back to where they rest. But उनकी जो टिंकलिंग है ना, जो बेल उन्होंने लगाई होती है, उसका साउंड आ रहा है. It's like their bedtime music. Third stanza. Save that from yonder ivy mantled tower, the mopping owl does to the moon complain of such as wandering near her secret bower molest her ancient solitary reign. अब एक आउल की बात है, एक आउल हूट कर रहा है from an old tower which is covered in ivy. The owl seems to complain to the moon about people disturbing her lonely rule over the churchyard. कि रात को तो सिर्फ उल्लू ही रह जाता है ना, तो वो उल्लू है, वो कंप्लेन कर रहा है मून को कि लोग जो है मुझे डिस्टर्ब कर रहे हैं मेरे लोनली रूल को ओवर द चर्चयार्ड. ठीक है. सो yeah, save that from yonder ivy mantled tower, the mopping owl does to the moon complain of such as wandering near her secret bower molest her ancient solitary reign. उसका अकेले का जो रेन था वो डिस्टर्ब हो रहा है. It's like the owl is very sad and complaining. Next, beneath those rugged elms that yew trees' shade, where heaves the turf in many a mouldering heap, each in his narrow cell forever laid, the rude forefathers of the hamlet sleep. अब एक tall elm tree की बात हो रही है. So under that tall elm trees and the shadow of a yew tree, both are symbols of death and mourning. Remember, elm trees, yew tree, both are symbols of death and mourning. The ground rises in mounds, as if जैसे क्या मतलब है अगर ग्राउंड ऐसे राइज कर रहा है, it makes graves, right? So these are the graves of common village people, rude forefathers, simple, uneducated, lekin honorable villagers. So he's talking about them. So he says, underneath these big trees and underneath these shade of this yew tree, there are mounds, each laying in a narrow room forever. मतलब अपनी अपनी ग्रेव्स में सब लोग हैं. The uneducated villagers, the common people. So beneath, अब दोबारा आप स्टैंजा को जब पढ़ोगे तो समझ में आएगा. Beneath those rugged elms and the yew trees' shade, where heaves the turf in many a moldering heap, जैसे graves का जो एक शेप होता है वो. Each in his narrow cell forever laid. अपनी अपनी छोटे छोटे नैरो से उनके रूम्स हैं, उनका जो वो ग्रेव है वहां पे वो लोग रह रहे हैं. द रूड फोर फादर्स ऑफ द हैमलेट स्लीप. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट, स्टैंजा 5. द ब्रीजी कॉल ऑफ इंसेंस ब्रीदिंग morn, द swallow twittering from the straw built shed, the cock's shrill clarion or the echoing horn, no more shall rouse them from their lowly bed. He's talking about the villagers again, who once woke up to the morning breeze. एक टाइम पे ये villagers भी उठते थे सुबह morning breeze में, chirping swallows में, जब rooster आवाज करता था, hunters का horn आता था. But now they are sleeping in their graves forever, never to wake again. Such a melancholic feeling to read this stanza. The breezy call of incense breathing morn, the swallow twittering from the straw built shed. The sound of these, जो ये scented breeze है, कभी कभी हवा में खुशबू भी तो आती है, इंसेंस ब्रीदिंग मून. तो ब्रीज जो अर्ली मॉर्निंग की हवा की जो खुशबू आती है वो, द स्वॉलो सिंगिंग इन अ शेड विच इज मेड ऑफ स्ट्रॉ बिल्ट शेड होते हैं ना वो. द कॉक्स श्रिल क्लैरियन, जो रूस्टर आवाज करता है, और द echoing horn, no more shall rouse them from their lowly bed. Continuing from the stanza 4, wherein he talked about their small narrow rooms where they are forever there laid, and एक टाइम पे वो लोग उठते थे इसकी आवाज से, उसकी आवाज से, but now they are forever there. Next stanza. For them no more the blazing hearth shall burn. अभी उन्हीं की बात हो रही है, उन्हीं villagers की. For them no more the blazing hearth shall burn, or busy housewife ply her evening care. No children run to lisp their sire's return, or climb his knees an envied kiss to share. Oh, beautifully written. The dead are never going to come back to their warm homes, जहाँ पे उनकी wives उनको इवनिंग में वो केयर प्रोवाइड करती हैं, या फिर जो बच्चे हैं वो भाग के उनके पास जाते हैं, उनके ऊपर चढ़ जाते हैं, उनको किस करते हैं, उनको हग करते हैं. All of these things are no longer going to be there because the dead will never return to their warm homes or see their wives and children. The wives are not going to prepare meals for them, nor will their children greet them joyfully. No children run to lisp their sire's return. आ गए, कोई भी जिसका भी वो बच्चे, दादू आ गए या पापा आ गए, व्हाटएवर, or climb his knees and the envied kiss to share. Next stanza. Oft did the harvest to their sickle yield, their furrow oft the stubborn glebe has broke. How jocund did they drive their team afield, how bowed the woods beneath their sturdy stroke. Talking about how they walked, how hardworking these farmers were. Oft did the harvest to their sickle yield, their furrow oft the stubborn glebe has broke. How jocund did they drive their team afield, पूरा जोश के साथ लेके जाते थे अपनी टीम को. How bowed the woods beneath their sturdy stroke. So these simple folks, village folks, were once hardworking farmers. They harvested crops, they plowed the fields, and they felled trees with strong strokes. Their labor, it shaped the land. But now they are gone. Let not ambition mock their useful toil, their homely joys and destiny obscure, nor grandeur here with a disdainful smile, the short and simple annals of the poor. So let not ambition mock their useful toil. ग्रे जो है वो वार्न कर रहे हैं that the rich, the powerful people should not mock these farmers, these simple, hardworking farmers. उनको मॉक नहीं करना. Their homely joys, उनको मॉक नहीं करना. And destiny obscure. क्या destiny थी उनकी? Nor grandeur here with a disdainful smile, the short and simple annals of the poor. History जो है इन poor लोगों की, it may be simple, but their lives mattered. Next. The boast of heraldry, the pomp of power, and all that beauty, all that wealth ever gave, await alike the inevitable hour. The paths of glory lead but to the grave. The boast of heraldry, the pomp of power, जो wealth है, power है, beauty है, fame है, it all of these things do not matter in the end, he says. Death will come for everyone, चाहे वो rich है, चाहे वो poor है. Even the most glorious achievement cannot escape the grave. All that beauty, all that wealth ever gave await alike. चाहे आप rich हो चाहे poor हो, everything is alike. The inevitable hour. सबको आएगा वो. The path of glory lead but to the grave. Whether you achieved something, you did not achieve anything, you led a simple life, joyful life, or you led a stressful life, earned money but you were in stress. At the end, you're all going to reach the same land. Stanza number 10. Nor you, ye proud, impute to these the faults, the fault. If memory over their tomb no trophies raise, where through the long drawn aisle and fretted vault, the pealing anthem swells the note of praise. He says the poor are not to blame if they do not have, grand tombs or memorials like the rich. आपने I don't know देखा है या नहीं, जो अमीर है बहुत, उनकी टूम से पता चल जाता है. It will be beautiful, big tombs, they will have big space, they'll have flowers and everything. तो इसमें आप पुअर को ब्लेम नहीं कर सकते कि उनके पास ग्रैंड टूम्स या मेमोरियल्स नहीं है लाइक द रिच. उनके ग्रेव्स सिंपल हैं, not marked by elaborate cathedrals or church music, which is fine. So nor you, ye proud, impute to these the fault, if memory over their tomb no trophies raise. उनकी memory, उनकी tomb पे कोई बड़ी बड़ी trophies नहीं raise की हैं, कोई memorial नहीं है. Where through the long drawn aisle and fretted vault, the pealing anthem swells the note of praise. Next is stanza 11. Can storied urn or animated bust back to its mansion call the fleeting breath? Can honor's voice provoke the silent dust, or flattery soothe the dull, cold ear of death? तो यहाँ पे he's asking this question, can an urn which is decorated with events from a dead person's life, or a sculpture like that, can the dead person's breath, can it bring back to their body the breath? A storied urn. A storied urn is basically a decorated जो funeral urn होता है, कलश जिसको हम बोलते हैं. और एक animated bust. It's a sculpted head of a famous person. So he says that all of these things, a storied urn or an animated bust, these things cannot bring the dead back to life, back to its mansion called the fleeting breath. Mansion here refers to the body which the soul has left behind. Mansion. तो क्या वो soul उस mansion में वापस आ सकती है? No matter how much honor or how much praise a person receives after death, it cannot bring them back. So flattery is useless to dead person because death makes all earthly things meaningless. आप डेथ के बाद प्रेज करो, फ्लैटरी करो, कुछ नहीं होगा उससे. A person is not going to come back. So he talks about the inevitability of death, and that it's everything at the end that is there. Next stanza is 11th. Perhaps in this neglected spot is laid some heart once pregnant with celestial fire, hands that the rod of empire might have swayed or waked to ecstasy the living lyre. So he says, the speaker here wonders if a great leader or a great poet lies buried in the simple graveyard, unknown and unrecognized. क्या ऐसा कभी हो सकता है? परहैप्स इन दिस निग्लेक्टेड स्पॉट, यहाँ पे वो होंगे, शायद वहाँ पे कोई निग्लेक्टेड सा स्पॉट होगा. तो क्या यहाँ पे एक ग्रेट लीडर या कोई ग्रेट पोएट हो सकता है यहाँ पे बेरीड? सम हार्ट वंस प्रेग्नेंट विद सेलेस्टियल फायर, एक टाइम पे जिसका हार्ट वुड बी फुल ऑफ क्यूरियोसिटी, एक फायर होती है जो. हैंड्स दैट द रॉड ऑफ एम्पायर माइट हैव स्वेड और वेक टू एक्सटेसी द लिविंग लायर. सेलेस्टियल फायर, it refers to divine inspiration भी कह सकते हैं. Perhaps a genius was buried here, never given the chance to shine. हो सकता है ऐसा. So some of these dead could have been rulers, could have been legendary poets, but their humble birth kept them in obscurity. हो सकता है ना? They did not achieve that fame, but humble birth था उनका, इसीलिए वो obscurity में रह गए, उनको कोई जान नहीं पाया. Next is, but knowledge to their eyes, her ample page, rich with the spoils of time, did never unroll. Chill penury repressed their noble rage and froze the genial current of the soul. He says these villagers never had access to education. Knowledge to their eyes did never unroll. Knowledge उनको मिला ही नहीं, education का मौका ही नहीं मिला. Poverty, penury is poverty. It prevented them from achieving greatness. उनका जो इंटेलेक्ट था, उनका जो पैशन था, all of these things were suppressed because they had to struggle for survival. So knowledge to their eyes, her ample page, rich with the spoils of time, did never unroll. Chill penury repressed their noble rage and froze the general current of the soul. So this happens. We've seen in the writers also, many of them could not complete their degree because there were financial struggles. आप सोच सकते हो कि कितना मुश्किल होगा कि उनको डिग्री छोड़नी पड़ी, पैसे ही नहीं थे डिग्री कंप्लीट करने के लिए. So they couldn't read, they couldn't get an education, they were never able to learn about anything, चाहे वो हिस्ट्री हो, चाहे कुछ भी हो. Next, full many a gem of purest ray serene, the dark unfathomed caves of ocean bear. Full many a flower is born to blush unseen and waste its sweetness on the desert air. यहाँ पे मेटाफर्स यूज किए कितने खूबसूरती के साथ, to show how many brilliant and talented people go unnoticed, just like precious gems. कहीं जाके वो ओशन के अंदर डीप छुपे हुए हैं, कुछ पाए जाते हैं लेकिन कुछ वहीं रह जाते हैं. Many geniuses live and die in obscurity. So just like a beautiful flower, It may bloom in the wilderness unseen by anyone. किसी घने जंगल में आप तो चले जाओ और वहाँ एक बहुत खूबसूरत सा फूल खिला हुआ हो, but it's not seen by other people. A great mind may be born in poverty and may never be recognized like that, you know. That's what he says. So many gems that give the most beautiful light, they are buried in the dark actually. The dark, unfathomed caves of ocean bear. इतनी अच्छी शाइन उन जेम्स में होती है, लेकिन वो देखो डार्कनेस में होते हैं अंदर. Full many a flower is born to blush unseen and waste its sweetness on the desert air. Next, some village Hampden, that with dauntless breast the little tyrant of his fields withstood. Some mute, inglorious Milton may here may rest. Some Cromwell, guiltless of their country's bold blood. सच ये बहुत फेमस लाइन्स हैं, एग्जाम में भी पूछी गई हैं. इनग्लोरियस मिल्टन या क्रॉमवेल गिल्टलेस. अब यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है देखो, द स्पीकर स्पेक्यूलेट्स दैट this graveyard might contain people who could have been great historical figures. जैसे कि हैम्पडन का यहाँ नाम लिया हुआ है. आई थिंक ये अनसीन कॉम्प्रिहेंशन में आया था. अ विलेज हैम्पडन. जॉन हैम्पडन वो एक इंग्लिश पॉलिटिशियन थे हु रेजिस्टेड चार्ल्स द फर्स्ट अथॉरिटी. ये कहते हैं कि इनमें से कई विलेजर्स हो सकते हैं ना कि उस तरह के पॉलिटिशियन बनते, जॉन हैम्पटन की तरह, जो लोगों के राइट्स के लिए लड़ते. A mute, inglorious Milton, a poet like John Milton who never got the chance to write. They are like that. A Cromwell guiltless of his country's blood, someone who had the strength of Oliver Cromwell but never became a ruler of or a tyrant like that. Understood? तो हो सकता है ना यहाँ पे कोई ऐसा होगा जॉन मिल्टन की तरह, लेकिन फेम नहीं मिला उसको, या क्रॉमवेल की तरह जो लीड नहीं कर पाया. नेक्स्ट, the applause of listening senates to command, the threats of pain and ruin to despise, to scatter plenty over a smiling land and read their history in a nation's eyes. Some of these buried villagers might have been capable of leading a nation. They could have been politicians, they could have been rulers or benefactors, bringing prosperity, but fate and circumstances denied them that opportunity. लेकिन इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि उनमें कैपेबिलिटी नहीं थी. नेक्स्ट, their lot forbade nor circumscribed alone their glowing virtues, but their crimes confined, forbade to wade through slaughter to a throne and shut the gates of mercy on mankind. उनका जो किस्मत थी, जो फेट था, it not only prevented them from greatness, but it also prevented them from committing great crimes. Some rulers and leaders achieve power through violence. हम सबको पता है. हम स्पेशली पॉलिटिशियंस का हाल हम लोगों ने कितनी मूवीज देखी होती हैं जिसमें हम देखते हैं कि किस तरह से भाई भाई को मार देता है जस्ट फॉर द थ्रोन. So leaders achieve power through violence. They wade through slaughter to the throne. So these humble people, however, never had the chance to be either heroes or villains. जो ये पूरा लॉट था, forbade nor circumscribed alone their growing virtues, but their crimes also confined, forbade to wade through slaughter to a throne, and shut the gate of mercy on mankind. The struggling pangs of conscience truth to hide, to quench the blushes of ingenious shame, or heap the shrine of luxury and pride with incense kindled at the muse's flame. Now, because these villagers, they never entered the high society, they never had to hide their honesty, or they never had the chance to become corrupt. They never had to flatter the rich and powerful for money. वो अपना काम करते थे, अपना जीते थे, खाते थे और बस. So in a way, their obscurity also protected their moral integrity. वो बचे रहे करप्शन से, वो बचे रहे जानवर की तरह बिहेव करने से, वायलेंस से बचे रहे. The struggling pangs of conscience truth to hide, to quench the blushes of ingenious shame. or heap the shrine of luxury and pride with incense kindled at the muse's flame. Far from the madding crowds, ignoble strife, their sober wishes never learned to stray along the cool, sequestered whale of life. They kept the noiseless tenor of their way. So these villagers, they lived peaceful, very honest lives, away from the corruption of the world, far from the madding crowd. This phrase later inspired Thomas Hardy's novel title. So they did not chase fame, they did not chase power or fortune, but they lived in quiet dignity. Quiet dignity. यही है कि all of these things, these things prevented these people's um, by these people's poverty. ये poverty की वजह से ऐसा नहीं है कि सब कुछ गंदा ही हुआ, कुछ चीजें अच्छी भी हुई, उनकी morality बची रही. So they never had to honor the rich and proud, as if honoring gods with poetry. Yet, even these bones from insult to protect, some frail memorial still erected nigh, with uncouth rhymes and shapeless sculptor decked, implores the passing tribute of a sigh. So even though these villagers were poor, इनकी graves को respect ये deserve करते हैं. These bones from insult to protect you, to protect them from insult. Some frail memorial still erected nigh, with uncouth rhymes and shapeless sculpture decked. Some might have a simple gravestone with rough gravings and bad poetry written on it, but even those small tributes show that their lives mattered. Their name, their years, spelt by the unlettered muse, the place of fame and elegy supply, and many a holy text around she stews that teach the rustic moralist to die. Unlettered muse, unlettered, uneducated villagers who write simple epitaphs. ये humble inscriptions जो हैं, it serves the same purpose as grand elegies जो kings या noblemen के लिए लिखी जाती हैं. The moral lesson is that everyone must die regardless of the status. ठीक है? चाहे इनको जो ट्रिब्यूट लिखा हुआ है इनकी ऊपर टूम्स के ऊपर एनक्रेविंग जो है वो हो सकता है किसी इलिटरेट ने की हो बट स्टिल इट मैटर्स इट डजंट मैटर दैट वो ग्रैंड मेमोरियल्स नहीं बिल्ड किए हुए हैं everyone at the end has to die regardless of the status. Next is for who to dumb forgetfulness a prey, displeasing, anxious being ever resigned, let the warm precincts of the cheerful day nor cast one longing, lingering look behind. Now the speaker asks, who can truly leave life behind without regret? Dumb forgetfulness, oblivion, the complete erasure of one's existence. तो ऐसा इतना डम कौन है ना? For who to dumb forgetfulness a prey, displeasing, anxious, being ever resigned. So life is a mix of pleasure and anxiety, yet no one departs without looking back longingly. कभी कभी हमें होता है किसी ना किसी चीज पे regret as the age grows. Even the most humble person cherishes life and struggles to let go. For who to dumb forgetfulness a prey, this pleasing anxious, oxymoron hai, being ever resigned, let the warm precincts of the cheerful day nor cast one longing, lingering look behind. Next is, on some fond breast the parting soul relies, some pious drops the closing eye requires, even from the tomb the voice of nature cries, even in our ashes live their wonted fires. When a person dies, they seek comfort in the embrace of loved ones. Fond breast is your loved ones. You would want your loved ones to be around. Some fond breast the parting soul relies. You rely on that uh, loved one. Some pious drops the closing eye requires. The dying also long for tears of mourning. Pious drops are tears of mourning, that you have somebody who's going to cry after you're gone. A sigh that they were loved. तो उनको अच्छा लगता है कि अब मेरे को कोई प्यार करता था इसीलिए कोई रो रहा है मेरे लिए। हम लोग को नहीं तो बोलते हैं ना, कोई रोने वाला भी नहीं होगा पीछे से। Even from the tomb, the voice of nature cries. Even in our ashes live their wanted fires. So even after death, human emotions and desires linger. Voice of nature cries. The final line, even in our ashes live their wanted fires, suggests that even in death, traces of our passions remain. Our influence lives on in memories. You might have somebody who's not there in your life any longer, but you still uh, were influenced by those people. Maybe your grandparents. You still remember them in they're still alive in your memories, right? That's what he's trying to ponder upon here. Next, for thee, who mindful of the unhonored death, dost in these lines their artless tale relate. If chance, by lonely contemplation led, some kindred spirit shall inquire thy fate. Here, the speaker turns inward, addressing a future reader, perhaps someone like himself. So he acknowledges that the poem itself is a tribute to the forgotten dead, जो भूले जा चुके हैं. He imagines that one day someone might wonder about his fate as well. मेरे बारे में भी शायद कोई सोचेगा. Just as he now reflects on the lives of the villagers, जैसे मैं आज इन villagers के बारे में सोच रहा हूँ. For thee who mindful of the unhonored death, dost in these lines their artful tale relate. इन्हीं lines में शायद कोई अपनी tale relate करेगा. If chance by lonely contemplation led, some kindred spirit shall inquire thy fate. Right? Next. Haply some hoary-headed swain may say, oft have we seen him at the peep of dawn, brushing with hasty steps the dews away, to meet the sun upon the upland lawn. यहाँ पे जो स्पीकर है वो इमेजिन कर रहा है अ वाइज ओल्ड विलेजर, होरी हेडेड स्वेन क्या है, एक वाइज ओल्ड विलेजर, रिमेंबरिंग हिम, he may say this villager might recall seeing him, walking through the fields at dawn, lost in thought. Early morning setting suggests solitude, reflection, and a poetic mind. So oft have we seen him at the peep of dawn, brushing with hasty steps the dews away to meet the sun upon the upland lawn. Next, there at the foot of yonder nodding beech that reads its old fantastic roots so high, his listless length at noontide would he stretch and pour upon the brook that babbles by. The old villager describes the speaker as someone who used to lie beneath a beech tree, daydreaming. अब वही ओल्ड विलेजर उसके बारे में सोच रहा है कि वो एक ऐसा एक इंसान था जो चलता था अपने ही थॉट्स में और ही वुड लाई बीनीथ दिस ट्री daydreaming. He would spend hours watching the brook and contemplating life. So this paints the speaker as a melancholic, thoughtful person, immersed in nature. जो स्पीकर है अब वो अपनी एक इमेज यहाँ पे क्रिएट कर रहा है हमारे सामने, थॉमस ग्रे बेसिकली. सो दे आर एट द फुट ऑफ yonder nodding beech that wreathes its old fantastic roots so high. His listless length at noontide would he stretch and pour upon that brook that babbles by. बस सोच रहा है बैठ के, thoughtful है बहुत. Next, hard by yon wood, now smiling as in scorn, muttering his wayward fancies, he would rove, now drooping, woeful, wan, like one forlorn, or crazed with care, or crossed in hopeless love. The villager recalls seeing the speaker wandering alone. वही चल रहा है, विलेजर के बारे में चल रहा है ना, विलेजर सोच रहा है, विलेजर पॉन्डर कर रहा है अपॉन द स्पीकर. अभी भी देखो इन्वर्टेड कॉमास में चल रहा है. द विलेजर रिकॉल्स सीइंग द स्पीकर wandering alone, lost in deep thoughts. So he sometimes muttered strange ideas, wayward fancies. कभी कभी वो अपने में ही बड़बड़ा रहा है कुछ अजीब सी बातें, showing a poetic or philosophical nature. He appeared sad, woeful Van is sad. Um, Perhaps it was due to grief or unfulfilled desires or lost love, crazed with care or crossed in hopeless love. अभी भी देखो नेक्स्ट स्टैंजा भी इन्वर्टेड कॉमर्स में है. वन मोर आई मिस्ड हिम ऑन द कस्टम्ड हिल. एक दिन गायब है लगता है. एक सुबह I missed him on the customed hill. He was not there. Along the heath and near his favorite tree. He was not there anywhere. Another came, not yet beside the rill, nor up the lawn, nor at the wood was he. So one day the villager noticed that the speaker was missing. He was no longer seen walking the hills, sitting by the brook, or wandering the woods. What does this mean? That the speaker has passed away. He's dead. Next. The next with dirges due in sad array, slow through the churchway path, we saw him borne. Approach and read, for thou canst read the lay, graved on the stone beneath yon aged thorn. Soon after, the villagers carried the speaker's body through the churchyard in a funeral procession. तो आप देखते हो कि लास्ट में वही स्पीकर का निकल रहा है, फ्यूनरल प्रोसेशन निकल रहा है. सो हिज ग्रेव लाइज बीनीथ एन ओल्ड थॉर्न ट्री. एक पुराने ट्री के नीचे उसका ग्रेव बनाया है और उस पे इंस्क्रिप्शन है द ले ऑन द टूम स्टोन. द पोम शिफ्ट्स टू द स्पीकर्स एपिटाफ. फाइनली जो अपने वर्ड्स में उन्होंने लिखा है इज फाइनल वर्ड्स टू द वर्ल्ड. And we have, here rests his head upon the lap of earth, a youth to fortune and to fame unknown. Fair science frowned not on his humble birth, and melancholy marked him for her own. Large was his bounty, and his soul sincere. Heaven did a recompense as largely send. He gave to misery all he had, a tear. He gained from heaven, it was all he wished a friend. No farther seek his merits to disclose, or draw his frailties from their dread abode. There they alike in trembling hope repose, the bosom of his father and his God. मतलब जो पहला इसमें तीन जो एपिटाफ है उसमें भी तीन स्टैंजास हैं. पहले में हियर रेस्ट्स हिज हेड अपॉन द लैप ऑफ अर्थ. तो स्पीकर अपने एपिटाफ में डिस्क्राइब कर रहे हैं अपने आप को एज अ हम्बल पर्सन, अननोन टू फेम, अननोन टू फॉर्च्यून. ना मुझे फेम मैंने देखा ना मैंने फॉर्च्यून देखा. ही वॉज नॉट वेल्दी नॉर वॉज ही सेलिब्रेटेड, बट ही हैड डीप कनेक्शन विद थॉट एंड melancholy. Melancholy marked him for her own. So he was naturally drawn to sadness and deep reflection. जैसे melancholy उनको खींच लेती थी अपनी तरफ. Second है, large was his bounty and his soul sincere. So he was very kind-hearted. He was very sincere, though he was not rich. तो एक comparison है ना farmers की तरह, villagers की तरह. He had only his compassion to offer to the suffering. He gave misery to all he had, a tear. Compassion था दूसरों के लिए. In return, he received the only reward that he desired, a friend in heaven. और लास्ट में है, no farther seek his merits to disclose or draw his frailties from their dread abode. ये तो epitaph ends with a request not to analyze his strengths or his weaknesses any further. All people, चाहे वो अच्छे हो चाहे flawed हो, they rest in God's hands after death. The speaker now rests in peace with hope for eternal salvation. तो एक बहुत ही deep personal note पे the poem ends. It's a long poem. It feels as though Gray is writing his own epitaph. He sees himself as someone overlooked in life, but not without depth and sincerity. So there are themes of mortality, full circle. Just as he mourned the forgotten villagers, he too will one day be forgotten. Death unites everyone, rich or poor, remembered or forgotten. So death is the great equalizer, right? And he says fame, fortune, these things are temporary. Memory fades, but every life matters, whether remembered or not. I hope you've understood this poem. Put down your thoughts in the comment section. If you want to take the full course for NET, SET, or assistant professor exam, um, connect with me. The details are in the description box. आप टेलीग्राम पे कनेक्ट कर सकते हो, व्हाट्सएप पे भी कनेक्ट कर सकते हो. अभी 3 months का कोर्स अगर आप लेते हो तो यू विल गेट द फुल कोर्स. जो हमारे ऑलरेडी कवर्ड सेशंस हैं वो भी आपको मिल जाएंगे. MCQs है, नोट्स हैं, everything. And towards the end, we will also have some mock tests. So all of these things you will get. So it'll be a good revision. If you wish to join, let me know. Thank you, and I will see you in the next session.